I'm like,
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Spin Rack. I'm here with my boy Petey. Say what's up, Petey.
what up?
Hey, so it looks like Marvel is losing Conan again. All the work they put into it, all the things in terms of have put more Conan comics, having Conan being part of this whole new Savage Avenger. It seems that they are losing it. The rights holders decided that they want to do the comics themselves. Petey, what do you think about that? When we talked about it when they brought Conan into it and thought it was nuts, incorporated into the Avengers. What do you think now?
Well, I was never with them incorporating it into the event, him, the character into the Avengers. I know that everything has been superheroes, but at the same time, you had other things that kind of worked. And, I just think that Marvel didn't do the effort that they did originally. You see the arc of Conan, even though it was eclipsed by the success of a lot of superhero books. It was a mainstay at Marvel from the 70s to the early 90s. So you had a title that, was sword and sorcery. Either Roy Thomas and Stan didn't really understand it, but at the same time, Roy Thomas saw something there, thought maybe we should try it, and read the novels and transcribed a lot of that to the comic books. And the success, Stan didn't put forth, he put a newbie on it, Barry Smith, and it got to big heights. And then by the time Barry Smith left, issue like 24 or something like that, John Buscema joined it, and sales just went through the roof. So you had a successful thing. The Marvel creators like Roy Thomas and Jerry Conway connected to the Conan movies to kind of help advise on those things, on both of them, both to the first two movies. So you had this thing where it was a Marvel juggernaut. And then over time, when superheroes went crazy, the book was just still a mainstay. They had King Conan out. I think we found, I think it was artists. Mark Silvestri started on King Conan, I think. And even in the 90s, they had this sort of, not really a hotshot artist, but had an artist that could compete with the Image guys, the X-Men, X-Books, Punisher guys. And, but showing that they were at least trying to compete with what was going on. Then Marvel would lose the license and it would go to Dark Horse, which they did do a Conan sort of run. They didn't do a big sales thing at Dark Horse, but they did a Conan translating books, adding some other stories, stuff like that from, it was a Kurt Busiek, Carrie Nord, Mike Mignola did a couple issues where they didn't really have that long-standing thing that Marvel had. And Marvel getting it back, I think they had one Roy Thomas and Alan Davis thing that came out, but they didn't really have. They were kind of doing what they're doing with the other licensed properties, of saying, we got Marvel characters, we got Disney characters, we can pair them up with these Marvel characters and make your book sell. But it's like doing a song, a hot new person doing a song with Jay-Z. That's kind of good for Jay-Z. It's not good for the new artists. The thing of it is that you need to create solid footing for Conan and see what works. Now, the
Well,
new
hold on a second.
plan.
Hold on a second. I thought it was kind of nuts when they did the whole Savage Adventures thing, but I read several of the comics, and it wasn't that bad. It was, you know, bringing Conan in. You having someone like the Punisher. I thought, yeah, they always have Wolverine in, but you had Venom. Was it Doctor Voodoo was involved, so it was a different type of team, and that you could be a little bit different. I just thought it was an interesting way of looking at it.
But you're talking about story. I'm not talking about story.
What are you
I'm
talking about?
talking about taking a character and dealing with the sword and sorcery type of stuff with it, making sure that that's the mainstay of the character, right?
Hmm.
That's what's going to make your character work, right? That's what's going to be the thing that makes it cool, not having it with the Avengers brand on there. That's one of the things that I think is getting lost, because I think let me try to show this other thing that got here. Let's go here. And I know we don't have much time, but this is like,
Beautiful.
so see, this is like the last artist that Marvel had in the 90s on it. So Roy Thomas was working on it again, and they had Raphael Kayaman, Kayanin, that this, and he came on there and he's doing something similar. You see this the other stuff. This is more of like in a Barry Windsor type of deal, but it was at least an attempt to try to do a Conan story in the thing where the image guys are just going crazy. Like to do it having a strong illustrator connected with Conan while we have all these other guys doing X books, Spider Man, and Punisher, right? Like blowing up the charts. So that's one thing that I always like to point out, that they should at least try to get a hotshot artist or get hotshot writer and do something that someone stays for a long time. But these type of books, they are probably just kind of like page rate books, not really royalty. That's usually what the license things are. You do a page, you get a page rate, but someone that's going to be there long to do a successful thing and say, I want to do, I don't know, 50 issues of Conan. And that's what I think Marvel didn't have. I think doing multiple kind of letting everybody get their turn is not kind of the way. And I think as good as any sort of Avengers story with Conan, you kind of miss. I think Byrne did a drawing, a gag where they had Conan on the cover of a Marvel Age beach party where everyone was at the pool party and Conan is there eating like a turkey leg. And at the same time, I think John Buscema said Conan would be a step above cavemen. So at the same time, who knows what he could smell like? So that's what Byrne was kind of playing off of in there. It's just like you don't really kind of put him in a thing with these Avengers because you'd have to teach him all the basics like bathroom, that's all the stuff
It's not
you
that bad. He becomes king at one point. He has dealt. He is the Sumerian. He
they
does.
don't have regular water running in these things. They have
Yeah,
actually.
but when there's regular water, you Romans were notorious for taking baths. That was their thought of what a civilization is. And yes, he's a barbarian, but I think that when he came into the city, we've seen him in baths. What are we talking about? There have been shots of bath.
No, they're doing illustrious things, but at the same time, you're going into the future, right? And I think you're saying that's too ridiculous to have to establish this person because they have all this nice ornate and like nice outfits and whatnot. I don't know. I think you have to build to that. But I think the effort is trying to get someone who wants to, like a Roy Thomas is someone who probably would want to stay doing this thing for a decent amount of time. That's kind of what you need on these type of books to really kind of really
So
make it into something.
so here's the question I have for you is like, what are we talking about now that they're taking away this title? Okay, I mean,
Oh yeah, keep
I
going.
mean, we're talking about, was this successful or was it not successful? Was it the whole thing that they just wanted, the people who own it just want to keep the royalties and stuff, more of the money? I mean, just so people have a background, this was an article from Bleeding Cool, and basically they're saying that it's owned by companies that are controlled. The people who run the Conan properties um, are controlled by a company named by CEO Frederick Malberg, who is a co-founder of the Target Games and CEO of Paradox Entertainment. They also own, of course, Cole, Solomon, Kane, Mutant Chronicles, Warzone, Cult. Don't they also own another one? Yeah. So I'm saying, so they're the ones who own the Robert E. Howard, I guess, estate. But in Europe, this is the crazy thing. In Europe, Conan the Barbarian has been in the public domain for years. Where in the U.S. it's still, I guess, the public domain may be ending soon, um, but I guess the licensing is still being controlled by I guess, the Paradox Entertainment and the Conan Properties International. But Ablaze in Europe, they published their own version of Conan called Sumerian, you know, which is pretty interesting. And I'm wondering where Marvel is like, hey, we don't want to be paying you guys as much for a non-licensed thing anymore, or not as a public domain character. Because I mean,
I
what?
don't know. I think, for Marvel, this decide, hey, it's in the public domain. Let's do it on our own. It'd be kind of I don't know. But anyway, I hear you.
I mean, I'm not sure what's going on there, but it's just interesting that you can technically they can just say, "Hey, we're not going to call him Conan anymore. Probably will work with a Blaze and and use their thing since it's under, the public domain and probably licensing fee." Everybody knows Disney's notorious about licensing fees, right? There was a thing with writers, artists, writers of some of their books that they stopped paying the royalties from when they took over certain properties, and they're like, "Hey, what about my royalties?" Like, "Hey, yo, yeah, that's on you,
Well,
guy."
I think once you go there and they say there's not going to be any royalties, I mean, you decide to say yes or say no to Marvel. That's the
It could be
thing.
that.
So I mean, and this I think that's what I think all of these Star Trek things, they were all page rate books, no royalties. But it's like look at like how much stuff. It's not even including the photo books that Byrne did. That it just because you like the book, you like the characters, you have this mainstay, and I guess people aren't thinking. I was really surprised that Kurt Busiek, who was talking about this, he wanted to really do with Conan, like, being a fan of it. It's really kind of hard to say, well, I want to do two stories of Conan, that sort of thing. I think most of the time, if you say you're like the fan, you should get at least 2 years on the book to be like, but it was kind of really short. So the one thing's, if these new guys have an idea who they want to, who's gonna work on it, more power to them. Let's see what happens. Or if they decide, you know what, we can reproduce all the stuff that Marvel did and sell it ourselves, there's that too.
That's true. I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do, but I mean, this Blaze company has a pretty interesting comic that it's a version of their version of Conan, and it's pretty interesting. That it looks like Conan, but I guess they're just not calling him Conan.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can always do your own barbarian, so
Yeah, it's called Cimmerian Beyond the Black River, but it's pretty interesting. And then there's Cimmerian Volume One. These were published in Europe, so and that
these
they're
guys are trying to get who's Superman, trying to get Henry Cavill to be the Sumerian.
yeah. But if you scroll further down, you will see what I'm talking about.
What
The
the
one,
355? No,
further down. So keep going.
yeesh.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Ablaze. I mean, it's they're definitely saying, hey, we can use the copyright is over, so we're going to use it.
yeah, I guess so. Well, I take it. I don't think they should just be doing the same face. Good lord, like they're using the same face. The only reason why I know the face is because I've seen John Romita use the face, and I've seen on The Punisher, and then John Buscema look at it and say, "They're just using your face," and he's like, "Well, I'm using your Conan face." What comic company puts this out? Is it
Yeah, I know it's crazy. So listen,
Blaze?
if you think that what is Marvel going to do when they lose Conan? Is it a big loss? Is it not? Hey, you guys tell us. You know what I'm trying to say? If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, spin rack.
Out. I guess we're out. We have to be out, right? Out.